on this edition of the Infinite Loop Show, the new iPad!
And some Windows 8 news. No. Just kidding. On the Infinite Loop Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Infinite Loop Show. This is episode number 7. I am Michael Gaines.
And I'm Casey Coughlin.
And something happened today.
Yeah, some stuff.
I installed Windows 8. No, we're not going to talk about that.
Yes.
Although I did install Windows 8, but I'm not going to talk about it because I don't like it. But that's a whole other issue. All right. So Casey, tell us. What was the big news today?
The new iPad, not iPad 3, not iPad HD. The new iPad.
New iPad. It doesn't even say that on the back. It doesn't say the new iPad, which is kind of strange.
No, it just says iPad.
Yeah, just iPad. And everybody thought that it was going to be called the iPad 3, and there were some people speculating it was going to be called the iPad HD, and we just get the new iPad. So before we get into all this stuff, what do you think of Apple dropping the number from the title of the iPad? Do you think this is going to be like the iPod, where it was just like 4th generation iPod and such?
Well, I think an even more comparable instance would be with the MacBook Pros and the computers. Even though they keep saying we're in a post-PC era, this naming convention is more like their line of PCs and the iPod, but they're not dropping this naming convention from the iPhones.
No.
Those are still going to be labeled. So I think what they're trying to do here is make you think of the iPad more like a computer and less like a phone device.
Well, here's what I'm wondering. How do we know that the iPhone 5 is actually going to be called the iPhone 5?
No, that's true. We don't. Maybe they're going to drop it from everything and just have one name without numbers.
Yeah, because here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that what they're going to try and do is unify all the iDevices across all platforms. You got the pad, the tablet, you got the phone, you have the Macs. You can still keep, obviously, you have your iMac. iMacs never really had a name attached to them. Mac Pros never had a name attached to them. MacBook Pros never had a number attached to them. So I think what they're trying to do is say from this point forward, everything is going to be unified. And I would bet that we won't see a number on the new iPhone. We might not. I don't know. We won't know at least until, I would say, WWDC in the summer. Yeah, they might announce it then. And
I think we're probably not going to see a release of the phone until the fall.
Right, September-ish.
So whenever they decide to announce that, I mean, they could announce it at WWDC, but judging from past announcements, it's usually a week, maybe a month prior to the actual drop sell date. So if that's the case, then I'd be surprised if we saw it in June and then not have it released until fall.
Here's what I've seen. Well, you and I have both seen this week that iOS 6 has been popping up in different places, and it was reported by Ars Technica, and they're reliable. So I'm going to take what they say at full value. So iOS 6 is out, and Apple knows that this happens. They own this code. They could hide it and say iOS 5. They didn't have to have it say iOS 6, and they're going to Ars Technica. You know this is going to get reported. So iOS 6 is going to have to be announced at WWDC. That's what people are there for. They're there to see what's new. What are all these developers that paid $1,500 a ticket going to be working on the next year? And so they could have an iPhone announcement later. They could. Yeah. But unless iOS 6 really wows people, I would think that I think we're going to see at least iOS 6 at WWDC. But we'll see. But in the meantime, we have iOS 5.1 today.
We do. And it comes with Siri.
And Siri in Japanese and German.
Yeah. Well, so more countries are getting Siri, and I thought it was kind of interesting where people were saying that the Siri is male in other countries.
That may be a cultural thing. I didn't research it. I have no idea why they did that.
So probably, definitely Saudi Arabia.
Maybe. No, maybe. It very well be possible. Could you imagine there's like some jealous wife who's, who are you talking to? Siri. Who's Siri?
Yeah.
It's my phone. Did you see that that episode of The Big Bang Theory?
Oh, I'm so far behind on Big Bang Theory.
Oh, you got. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a whole Siri episode. It's really funny.
Oh, I think I heard about that where Sheldon like falls in love with her.
I wasn't Sheldon. It was I don't watch the show enough to know. It's the guy with the monkey's haircut, whatever his name is.
Oh, shoot, I forget his name too.
Yeah,
he's the only one with just a master's.
Yeah, or was it? No, I don't think it was Sheldon. No, I think it was the other one. Yeah, it was the other one. I don't know. It's been a while. But anyway, my point is, you should watch it. It's really funny.
Yeah, I know. It's one of my favorite shows, and I'm behind on a lot of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Let's get into some other stuff before we get into the new iPad. The new Apple TV, which you are very excited. Why don't you take the Apple TV because you're thrilled to death about this, aren't you?
I love the Apple TV, and I always have. Even though it's always been a hobby, and they kind of keep it on the back burner, I really like it. And my husband and I have been cord cutters for years. Mm-hmm. We've gone. It was at times just from random sources.
Yeah.
But we got Netflix, and then after the Apple TV, it's not terribly difficult to be a cord cutter. And granted, there's other devices like the Roku box or the Boxy box, or even Google TV to a lesser extent, mm-hmm. that will kind of fill that void. I like the Apple TV personally, and the latest one, the hockey puck one, has been, I think, the best iteration. But now they've updated it once again, mm-hmm. so it's got a whole new interface, which apparently the old one, or not really old, but the hockey puck one that's out currently, it will get this new interface update that's more iOS-ified, mm-hmm. where everything is just kind of bright, colorful icons instead of the kind of drill down, almost more PS3 type of menu. Mm-hmm. But the new one will do 1080p.
That's
which
what I was waiting for.
The one that's out now only does 1080 or 720.
And this is the reason why I never bought an Apple TV in the first place, is because I thought that 720 was just a waste of money for me, even though it was $100. I thought that it was just not worth spending $100 for something that I knew was going to be updated at some point, and I really didn't need it because I can play a lot of media through my TiVo box. Mm-hmm. I have a TiVo Premiere XL, I think is the exact model number, and so I can watch Netflix through there. I can stream stuff through there, so I didn't really need the Apple TV. But now that it has 1080p, I'm gonna have to look into what it has and see if it hooks into my system. But if it does, then I think I may get one.
Yeah, a lot of people, even with the current Gen 1, were saying, same kind of thing. Oh, it only does 720. Do I really need it? I already have this and this and this. My argument for most of that would be it's only $99. Mm-hmm, really. Right. And even if you're like, well, they're going to update it eventually, why waste $100? It's like, you could say that about everything, mm-hmm. literally. You could say that about Roku. You could say that about everything. Why waste the money when it's just going to be updated in a matter of time? Yeah. All technology is like that.
Well, yeah, but in this case, I knew that they'd have to do 1080p at some point, because I just think that 720 is, in my opinion, is just a jib. But anyway, so you wrote here third-party apps with a question mark. How?
Well, at first they were talking about, when they were talking about the new interface and that I would do third-party apps. Mm-hmm. I think this was kind of me jumping the gun in excitement, because we're all kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. We know the Apple TV can run the same iOS that the iPhone and iPad runs, and we're just waiting for them to open the gates for apps to run on the Apple TV. They said third-party apps, and so I got all excited, of course. But I think what they meant was what's currently on there. The MLB ticket, the NBA ticket, YouTube, Pandora, they're calling those third-party apps. So still to date, you can't really get the same apps on there that you have on your iPad and iPhone. There is full mirroring, so if you're playing Infinity Blade on your iPad and mirror it to your TV for, I guess, your friends to watch you play, there's that.
That'd be nice. Now, what I'd like to know is if it does the full 1080p mirroring, because I've got a lot of 1080 stuff here. I rip my own Blu-rays. I do, because the reason why is because I've got a second computer here. You could, if you're watching the video, you could see it behind me. And while I'm working, sometimes I just like to pop in a movie. Well, the problem is when you're playing a Blu-ray movie, you got to go through all these menus, and you just want to get to the movie. And the other reason why I did it is because if I'm on a trip or something, I buy all my movies. I don't pirate anything. But I have these digital copies, and the digital copies look like ass. So no, really, if you, I think the digital copies are like,
and I think that's
640 by something. They're crap. So if I've got the damn Blu-ray, I should be able to watch it in the best resolution that I can on all my devices. I'm not doing anything wrong. So I mean, I own the damn thing. So now with the Apple TV, I like to know if I can stream full 1080p to another room, and just play the movies that way, so that I don't have to go through all this crap with launching the disc and waiting for the logos, and no, you can't skip this, and here are 9 trailers that you can't skip. Thank you, Disney, and that sort of thing. So I'm just a little tired. Like I did a comparison of Tron Legacy. It was one of my favorite movies. So I bought like the 5-disc little Tron disc thing, and it has a digital copy with it. And I did a comparison between the 1080p version and the digital copy. And the digital copy was so bad. I mean, you can see all the pixels, and you watch the 1080p version. It's just gorgeous. Even on the iPad, which is not the full resolution of Blu-ray, it's still really gorgeous. So if I had the ability to sort of play the rip stuff without the menus and the logos and the trailers, if I can shoot that over to the other room, I think that would be awesome. I would love to do that.
Yeah, no, I think at this point, the only limitation would be your own wireless.
Yeah. Or, well, in my case, I've got everything wired. I mean, I could just wire it. I've got a wire to the next room because my Oppo Blu-ray player is connected to the internet. So just do it that way.
There you go.
Yep. Did you upgrade? Well, you've only been home a few minutes before we started recording, but did you upgrade to iTunes 10.6?
No, not yet. I haven't upgraded anything yet.
I did. I only looked at it for a second, and it said it has this thing. I don't know if it's new, because I've been doing all the re-downloading through the main window, but now it says here are your movies, your music, your books, your apps, and it gives you the ability to re-download stuff. And now with 10.6, you can re-download your movies.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, except Fox Universal. Yeah, I know. Damn digital rights and all that.
Indeed.
So yeah, 10.6, iTunes 10.6 is now supposed to do 1080p. So when I get a chance, I'll play with it, and we'll see how it goes. But now, let's get to the iPad. And go, Casey.
All right, so we have lots of rumors confirmed today. The Retina display, the A5X chip, not the A6. There's kind of competing rumors in that department. I was hoping for the A6, but we have the A5X, which kind of feels like an A5S. Same battery life, despite the fact of having, wait for it, 4G LTE. That's right, people. We have a 4G iPad.
That's
in the
amazing.
iPad before the iPhone.
I think here's my thought on this. The A6 is probably going to pull more wattage. So they had a choice. They said either we're going to go, we're either going to go with either stay with 3G and go with the A6, or we're going to go with A5X and then go with 4G LTE. So right now they're probably balancing the two. Is the lesser of two evils, I suppose.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's fine. I mean, right now with the demos that we saw, the A5X was just great.
So I'm thinking the only difference between the A5X and the A6 would be quad-core CPU. Mm-hmm. Since the 5X has quad-core graphics, and they kept saying that the entire time, and only a dual-core CPU.
Yeah.
It does have double the RAM, though, so we're up to a gig RAM now.
Oh, was that verified?
I believe it was. Was it not on the spec on the store?
I might have glanced over it.
Of course, they have been dumbing down those specs for a long time now. Mm-hmm. You know, where they used to plot out RAM and CPU, now they're just like 4 times faster. Mm-hmm. So normal people can understand.
It's got 44% better saturation, which I think is great. I think it's going to make pictures look better. It's going to make movies look better.
In addition to the Retina display and having twice the pixel count, it's going to have much better color saturation.
But the movies that I ripped, I've got the original MKVs because I was using Handbrake to convert them to the size of the iPad. But the original MKV, because there are a handful of movies that I just sort of like put on in the background while I'm working, my favorites. I'm going to re-encode them for a Retina display.
There you go.
I'm gonna do it two ways. I'm gonna do it native resolution 1920, and then I'm gonna bump it up to 2048 and see what happens. See if there's any sort of pixelation or something. Because now you're blowing up. It's so amazing that we're taking what is right now this amazing resolution of movies, and now we've got a display that's even bigger than that. That just blows me away. It's because I didn't think that would happen. On that kind of a device. I mean, you could do it on a monitor. I can do that on my monitor here.
Well, I mean, it's kind of following suit, with monitors. Mm-hmm. So
it's just I'm blown away by how technology has been progressing the last 3 or 4 years or so. Because we were stagnant for a while. We're having these little incremental upgrades, and then bam. Now we've got a bunch of stuff. No, anyway, so this camera's supposed to be better. What's going on with this camera?
The camera's kind of confusing because they keep using different names and names like iSight that I thought was long retired. Suddenly this pops up again.
Yeah.
They used to call, they had the external iSight, which you still have.
Yes.
And even the built-in cameras in MacBook Pros and iMacs, for a while they were calling iSight cameras. Mm-hmm. And then maybe 2 generations ago, in the computers, they changed it over to FaceTime HD cameras. Mm-hmm. And that's what they've been using ever since. So it seemed like the name iSight had been retired, and all of a sudden, bam, the new iPad has an iSight camera on the rear. So what does that really mean?
All right. When they say iSight camera, I've got the original iSight connected up here. I don't really use it anymore because I have these Logitech cameras now. But the iSight camera, the original, when I hear the name iSight camera, I think of crap because the resolution on this thing is terrible. The light pickup is terrible. These Logitech cameras are amazing. Mm-hmm. And so I go, well, I don't know if I really want that. But the iSight camera on the back is supposed to be 5 megapixels. Mm-hmm. Right?
So it's not exactly the same as the 4S camera like we were all thinking. It's like the same technology with the same autofocus and white balance and optics and filters, but it's 5 instead of 8 megapixels.
And this is what I don't understand, is that you can fit the 8 into the iPad, so why not just do it? From a marketing point of view, it almost makes the iPad... The new iPad, I was going to say 3. It makes the new iPad look a little gimped, a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot of people were saying this with the iPad 1 when there wasn't a camera at all, And a lot of people were saying they could have easily fit a camera in there. There's lots of room. Why didn't they put it in there? And it's almost the same kind of argument. They must have a reason for that.
Yeah. So.
But again, with the naming, like you said, yeah, when they said iSight, well, with the iPads and even the iPhones, traditionally the camera on the back is much better than the front-facing camera. And so then they call the back rear camera the iSight camera. And with them using that name, yeah, I'm thinking, well, that's old, but that's the back camera, so that should be good. They've been using FaceTime camera lately, so FaceTime means good, but that's the front-facing camera is the FaceTime camera.
FaceTime good, iSight bad.
I know, that's totally what I was thinking.
Yeah, so I don't know what's up with that. I think they could have marketed that a little better because I almost feel like the camera is gimpy, but I don't know. We're not getting what?
I just feel like there's like some confusion going on in Apple as far as their naming conventions go, and they just need to sit down and plan out what they're going to name shit for the next however long, not like right now and then in a couple of years or generations, flip-flop and go, oh, just kidding, we're going to bring that back, or we're going to call it this now.
We're getting voice dictation, but not Siri. This is another thing that makes the whole thing look a little gimpy, is that why not just give us damn Siri?
The only thing I can think of is they need more servers, and they're not ready yet. The 4S sold a hell of a lot more phones than they were probably expecting. And we all know every time that Siri comes back with, I can't find this, or I can't contact the servers, or try again later. That's still happening. It's not happening all the time, but it's still a thing. And so I'm thinking until they get Oregon up and running.
I don't know. Would I use Siri on my iPad? Absolutely. Yeah. I don't have it on my 4. I'm waiting for a 5 or whatever they call it. I'm not getting a 4S. So I don't know. I'm thinking that sort of knocks it down a notch also. Not putting Siri on it. It's got the CPU. I mean, why would they want to just stick Siri only on the phone? I mean, obviously you want to sell phones, but if people are buying this stuff, they probably already have a phone anyway. So you're essentially taking something away from the ecosystem.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. No. I mean, I would think Siri would be like FaceTime, where once they rolled out FaceTime, they got it out onto everything else as quick as possible to forward that technology and really get people to adopt it. Why would Siri be any different? I
don't know.
Unless there's like physical barriers like servers.
I can't even think of any reason why. I don't know.
That's the only thing I can think of, is if they physically cannot handle anymore on the infrastructure side.
Dumb. All right, the 4G LTE. You're almost squealing like a schoolgirl over this.
I was hoping, and I may or may not have some insider knowledge on this, but I had thought this was going to happen, and then right before the announcement, there's a lot of doubts going around, and a lot of people saying, no, that's silly because of this or X, Y, and Z, and I was starting to waver, but I really wanted this because for a lot of reasons. I mean, it'd be handy. I never had a 3G iPad, thinking I would never need it, but now in my life now, I'm kind of thinking, God, I need this, and I'm on the verge of buying a MiFi, but now with 4G in the new iPad, and it can be, well, carrier permitting, it can be a personal hotspot as well. That totally solves both my problems. So I'm pretty excited.
So you're happy?
I am. It just comes down to figuring out whether I want to get it for AT&T or Verizon.
I've got FiOS. I'm supposed to have 30 megabits per second down and 30 megabits per second up. I'm doing a speed test right now on my iPhone. It says 15 and 13. I'm gonna have to find out why. But sometimes it glitches, and then like 2 days later, I'll be 30 and 30 again. But my point being is that 4G LTE is supposed to give you 72 megabits per second. Is this right?
I know that those look like astronomical numbers. Like, how can that over-the-air LTE be that much faster than, like you said, your FiOS, which is
I'm gonna
crazy
run a desktop
fast
test
for itself. And up until this point, over-the-air has never been faster than a solid landline connection.
But are those
And
like
FiOS
real-world
is-
numbers?
I don't know. Maybe this was, again, testing on the Apple campus with their own private cell tower with nobody else on it, and they can just,
Yeah, maybe.
get crazy numbers.
Well, all right, I'm doing a speed test
I
right
hope
now
it's
on my
true,
Windows machine.
but it
Let's
just
see.
seems ridiculous.
It does. Oh, see now, okay, on my Windows machine, I'm getting 35 down
With your FiOS?
with my FiOS, and it's sustaining at 35.08, and then my upload is, well, it doesn't matter what my upload is. The point is that 72 megabits per second is just a holy crap number.
Yeah. What do you normally get on your MiFi? Because you have a 4G Verizon MiFi.
Oh, that's a good question.
That would be a little more applicable.
I don't know. My MiFi's upstairs, and I haven't used it in a little while, so the batteries have run out. So I can't test it. That's a good question. I should really test it. Yeah, I've got 35 down, 33 up on FiOS on my Windows machine. So to get twice that on 4G LTE, that got me thinking, because I knew I've had 4G LTE MiFi for months, and it's great. I love it. And it's noticeably faster than 3G. The thing is, I hardly ever use it. I use it when I'm going out so that I don't have to spend the extra money on another plan on the iPad, and then my family can use it while we're out and that whole thing.
True.
So that's why I bought a Wi-Fi iPad, not a 4G LTE one. But I never really tested the numbers. So I don't know how much faster it is. And I'm going to do that.
We can do a little side-by-side comparison next Friday.
That's right. That's absolutely right. The next point that we've got written down here is that the iPad can be used as a personal hotspot, which is nice. And again, you wrote in parentheses, as if the carrier supports it. Right now, the carriers are going to be, for 4G LTE, AT&T, Verizon, Rogers, Bell, Telus, and not Sprint.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because all their commercials, all their ads purport that, what is it? Not the fastest with the first 4G network, because I think T-Mobile touts itself as the fastest 4G, and they all have like their technical, highlights. But and Sprint was the first to with the Evo have a 4G phone.
Yeah,
but totally eclipsed by the first 4G iPad.
Now, Sprint uses what? CDMA?
Yeah, I believe so.
I just don't understand. Unless maybe they just, I don't know. They can share the antenna. Oh, that's another thing, is that when you buy an AT&T 4G LTE iPad, you have to buy a specific kind. They didn't have dual antennas. So there's a Verizon 4G LTE iPad.
Yeah.
There's an AT&T one. I don't understand why there's not Sprint, unless there's something about the technology that I'm not understanding. Because I was under the impression that Sprint would work with CDMA antennas.
Well, maybe it's something on like the contracting end.
I don't know.
Because as soon as the iPhone came to Verizon, it could have come to Sprint, but it didn't for a long time. Sprint had to, I believe it was a licensing issue where Sprint actually had to pay for the right to sell iPhones on their network. So maybe they're still in the hole from, paying for the iPhones. They can't pay for iPads as well.
I don't know. You wrote here the battery life is supposed to be 10 hours, 9 hours on 4G. That's incredible.
Yeah, those are exactly the same numbers that they touted last year for the iPad 2. 10 hours battery life, 9 hours on 3G. And so a lot of people who were saying that 4G couldn't be on the iPad was for battery life.
Right.
And here they are touting the exact same numbers for 4G as 3G, which we all know 4G sucks a hell of a lot more battery than 3G.
I tell you, I'm a little concerned about this. Well, not concerned. Concerned is like the wrong word, but I've been on AT&T from the beginning, and the reason why is not because I moved to AT&T because of the iPhone. I was on Verizon. I just want to tell this tiny little story, is that I was on Verizon years ago, and Verizon in my area in Jersey was great. The problem with Verizon, this was at the time when they had the Motorola 720T, I believe. If anybody remembers what, it was a flip phone with a color display.
Ooh.
But you couldn't you couldn't put your own stuff on it through Verizon without paying like a quarter or something like that. And I thought that was ridiculous and stupid. So I moved to Singular. And with Singular, with their phones, you just plug them into USB, just put whatever you want on it. And so that was great. And then Singular or AT&T bought Singular, and that's why I'm on AT&T now. The thing is that this is obviously going to be a good test for 4G iPhones at the end of the year. And so now I'm wondering whether or not I'm going to have to move, or if I'm going to want to move to Verizon, because the 4G coverage in this area is better on Verizon than AT&T. And I only stuck with AT&T for a while because of that whole issue, and with Verizon, and I just thought it was disgusting that they would charge people to put stuff on your own damn phone. I had to buy a hacking kit for that Motorola phone. It was like a special cable and software and everything. It's like, this is not what you should do with your phone.
Yeah.
So that's why I have a little negative feeling for Verizon, despite the fact that I do have their MiFi. But now I'm wondering whether I should just move the entire kit and caboodle over to Verizon, because 4G is going to be better in this area.
It's definitely something to consider, and now you have your choice, to go to wherever, pretty much.
Yep. So long as they don't pull any of their old tricks.
Well, that's debatable.
But that's one thing that I like about the Apple ecosystem, is that Apple says we don't want our customers to get nickeled and dimed every time they want to put a song, a wallpaper, a ringtone on their phone. So anyway, we're gonna have new cases. You have it's what?
Well, I'm thinking, with the exception of the Magic cover.
I don't know, because if it's a millimeter thick, because here's I've got my iPad here, and the magnetic thing. If this
that would still, I think that would still work. I think it would be any like hard back cases and cases that are totally wraparound. Any difference in thickness and size is going to necessitate a new case, really. So, I mean, unless it was thinner, like a lot of the manufacturers of iPad 1 cases would kind of sloppily still work on the iPad 2, but since the new iPad is a little bit thicker, then wraparound and back cases I think are gonna need to change up, but I think the magnetic one that just covers the front will probably be fine.
Okay. 9.4 millimeters. I think the old one was what, or the iPad 2 was what, 8.4?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a millimeter. I don't know how much it's going to matter in some cases. In some, like, if you need an exact form-fitting one, then you're going to have a problem.
No, it's going to be like that.
Yeah, if it's made of leather or cloth or something like that, where you can stretch it a little bit, you should be okay. So we'll see. The prices on these are $499, $599, $699 for the 16, 32, 64 gig Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, so basically same pricing across the board for all the models. Another kind of little bit surprising that they didn't up the storage amounts. A lot of people were thinking that there might be a 128 gig model this time around.
Maybe.
Same storage price amounts.
Here's what I'm thinking. I was watching. You and I were both watching the coverage on This Week in Tech, and Leo made a very good point. Is that This seems to me to be more of a content creation device than the iPad 1, which is more of a content consuming device. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you're right. I'm a little surprised that there wasn't a 128. However, with the stuff that I've got, with all the stuff I've got on this 64 gig one, I'm barely pushing maybe 40 gigabytes. So I don't know what kind of space people really need, even on a content creation device. Do you really need 128 gig? Because I would think that the average users, even the above average users, may not want 64 gig.
Yeah, I mean, there's things to be said for and against both. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people like having their stuff there on the local drive. Mm-hmm. But then again, a lot of stuff is being moved to the cloud. Apple's one of those players in particular with iCloud, moving everything to cloud storage. So then it doesn't really matter what storage you have locally.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's available March 16th, as we've said. You can pre-order right now if you can get in.
Oh, yeah, seriously.
I was lucky enough to get in as soon as the store opened, but even like 5 minutes after, or even like, because I said to you that it's open, and in those 10
I
seconds,
tried immediately,
you
and
couldn't
it
get
crashed.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been up and down, just random for people. I know a lot of people where just sitting in the same room, one person would be able to get in and order, and the other person is looking at the "oops, sorry, something happened" page.
Mm-hmm. So,
but yeah, it was kind of weird. I've never seen the Apple site have that much trouble with anything. Okay. They usually have that so well orchestrated and so well timed. And that was probably still the case, but maybe just demand. I mean, I've never seen that oops page. I've never seen a 404 error on apple.com.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen... Oh, you're talking about the HTTP 1.1? I've seen that.
Yeah, that.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I've seen that before. All right, so all the country stores are launching on the same day. This is the reason why... Casey and I were talking about this during the week, is that... The Houston store is opening on the 16th. That's why people were thinking that the 16th may be the day to open. And here I'm thinking, if you're opening a new store, do you really want to open a store with lines around the block and people that may or may not have worked in retail before and they're getting a little overwhelmed? But as you say, Casey, is that who cares? They just want to open the store on a high note. So yeah. So now we know that the 16th will be the date. So we're thinking it was either going to be this Friday or next Friday.
Mm-hmm. This Friday would have been really rushed, because I think the main argument for having a week delay is to have that pre-order rush. Mm-hmm. Even though all the stores still get in stock beyond the pre-orders, and it's not 100% necessary to pre-order, they still kind of like having that rush and creating that demand and that fervor, so it's almost like there's two launch dates in a sense, where the announcement and pre-order date is huge, and then a week from them you have another huge date when it actually goes on sale.
Right.
So you really dominate the news and everything in that week time.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some of the apps that are going to be updated. GarageBand is going to be updated. 4 musicians can connect over Bluetooth. That's kind of interesting.
That looks really awesome. And if I were any kind of musician, I would be super excited.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that GarageBand was sort of a solo thing. I don't know. The video showed 4 people working together, which is kind of interesting, but I don't know if it's that important to many people. Maybe it is. New iWork for iPad, which is good.
I don't know what's new in it. Again, I haven't updated anything, but new stuff, yay.
iPhoto for iPad. This looked really cool.
This looked amazing. Yeah. I'm so excited.
You can just edit and do your saturation and your effects right there on the iPad. And this is something that I think we skipped a couple lines back, is that let me see if I can. Where was it? A Photostream. What it'll do is it'll grab pictures from your iPhone or iPad and put it straight to Apple TV. So as you do your editing and finish it, it goes to your Apple TV. So if you're 1,000 miles away and you're editing pictures, somebody at home can just look at it right on your Apple TV as they're going live.
Right. What they showed in the demo for iPhoto for iPad makes it look better than iPhoto for the desktop.
It does.
I mean, they can do a lot of the same stuff, but to be able to do that with multi-gesture and they have like the actual brushes splayed out, it looks so nice.
Yeah, I know. It does. It really does. And let me see. iLife has not been updated since last year. No, I make it sound like it was like such a long time ago. But I'm hoping for an update this year in 2012 with these features. Because if Apple doesn't do that, what does that tell the consumer about
that's
going
to be crazy if the software that they're putting out for the iPad is ahead of the software that they're putting for the desktop.
Yeah.
That's going to be
a problem. Because people are going to start feeling that their Macs are becoming obsolete. Now, somebody asked me before, my friend Brad asked me before, he says, do you think that Apple's going to get rid of the Mac line because of all these iPads and iPhones that are selling? And I said, no. And the reason why I said that is because look at what I'm doing. Look at what you're doing. Look at all the people, all the friends that are doing content creation on a Mac. You can't do this
until they release Xcode for iPad.
Well, no. I'm not even talking about development. You're right, but I'm not talking about development. I'm talking about the fact that you need to plug all this stuff in.
Oh,
like the mixers and the USB devices and FireWire. You can't do that on the iPad right now. At least, I mean, there's some things. Yeah,
right.
You can get the USB adapter,
a mixer over Bluetooth, or
device
what
drivers.
have you.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can't do that right now. So up until the point that they do that, people need their MacBook Pros, they need their Mac Pros, and they need their iMacs. And so I don't see Apple getting rid of the desktop machines anytime soon. However, consumers are going to start feeling that they're getting a little left out when you can do all this cool stuff on iPhoto.
Yeah.
And so that's something I'm going to be keeping my eye on is like, well, when is iPhoto for iOS or Mac OS coming out? Or I should say OS 10 now. I keep changing the name on us.
Well, they did end the whole keynote with a big, more coming soon 2012 thing.
That's right. They did say that. So that 2012 is going to show a whole bunch of new stuff. This is just the beginning. So Mac Pro. I want a Mac Pro. So if a new... here's what I'm thinking. All right, we know that we're going to get new MacBook Pros. We're going to get a new iPhone. We're going to get iOS 6. So right off the bat, we know that there are those three things coming. We've already got our new iPad. We've got our newer Apple TV. Now, it makes me wonder if they've got anything else going on that we don't know about, either software, hardware.
As far as hardware, I mean, we kind of know that there has to be new MacBook Pros and iMacs in the pike with Ivy Bridge as well. That's
true.
So.
Yeah. And let me see. There's no new dock connector, and it still has a home button.
Right, yeah. So everybody who thought there wasn't going to be any buttons whatsoever, there's still physical buttons.
Yeah.
There's no new ports. They didn't redo the 30-pin connector. That's still the same. So all your docks and your alarm clocks and speakers will still work.
I can't see them getting rid of the 30-pin connector anytime soon, unless they absolutely have to.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a major reason to revamp that. I thought just because of the sheer amount of peripherals there are now. I mean, cars and everything use that 30-pin connector now.
Yeah. And it's like getting rid of USB. You can't just change it because there are a lot of companies with money invested in this port format. So. All right. Office for iPad still hasn't shown up.
Yeah, we're still waiting on Office 15.
Or whatever it is. And, we already talked about the server logs with the...
one thing. They're keeping iPad 2 around.
Oh, right. Yeah, $100 less.
So it's kind of like with the iPhones now where we have 3 models in the store at the same time, the 4S, 4, and the 3GS, will have 2 models of iPads in the stores.
Yeah.
The new iPad and the iPad 2, which couldn't be more confusing, I think, because 2 sounds like it comes after iPad,
Right.
you know. But that's the new one.
That's true. The new iPad.
You could have iPad, or you could have iPad 2. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. I think they're just cutting it off now while they can.
yeah. So there's going to be one generation where it's totally confusing, and then the rest of the way it'll be like everything else, where you'll just have to memorize the model number, and there you go.
Do that. Okay. All right. I think we're done. There's a lot to talk about. But actually, I have to move on to Sith heads.
Oh,
in 30 minutes.
well,
So.
maybe you should not do so many shows.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding.
All right. If you want to contact us, I am at StarMike on Twitter. Casey is, you spell it.
At Casey Queso, KACEYKASO, the Casey, not the cheese.
Not the cheese. You can follow us on Twitter, Infinite Loop TV, and you can email us, theinfiniteloopshow@gmail.com. You can also find us on Google Plus, and we're on Google Plus, right? Do we use the Google Plus?
And Facebook, YouTube, we're everywhere.
That's right. I think, what are we on YouTube? The Infinite Loop Show on...
the Infinite Loop Show all together on YouTube,
Oh,
and then separated out on everything else.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody.
All right, go back to refreshing the Apple Store.
All right. Bye.